All right, welcome everybody. Let's make sure I have audio. It looks like I have audio, and it is another wonderful Saturday afternoon. Our shop just closed, and I am getting ready to head off to Lakeland to pick up my wife and Ellen. They are at the Lakeland show. But let's get down to it. I have some really good stuff, but let's start out with my 90-second intro for the newbie people. Let's see. So what is MOTT? MOTT stands for Machine Owner Technician Training. It's a program that I've worked with Handy Quilter on getting approved so that the people that do not have good technicians near them can work on their own machines with us as their support organization so that they can do it without violating a warranty or being told that they're doing something they shouldn't. We also give you access to parts, training. You can check out the link below to get all the details on the internet there. On YouTube here, we try and do a little bit of troubleshooting because troubleshooting applies to both users and technicians. Okay, if you're a user now, we have what we call the MK Quilts University, where all our training is hosted. We have our premium track, which teaches people how to use their long arms, especially Pro Stitcher. There's a crossover of troubleshooting. What's happening when I'm having a bad stitch, a long stitch? It's making this noise or something else. But you're going to need to be a MOTT member to get the detailed technical issues, and you can take that as far as you want. We train you on doing the basics, but if you want to know more about your machine and how to troubleshoot, there's going to be a lot of content in MOTT. All right, so now back to the program. All right, so a lot's going on here this week, and before we get into our main agenda item of troubleshooting Pro Stitcher motor errors, communication issues, things like that, I thought I'd give you a little update here. My desk is cleaned up a lot more. The camera's at a little different angle here, but I do want to show you that I have cleaned up this side, and this is going to be my new training room. Okay, if you see my friends up there to the right, they are some of my earliest friends in childhood. But what I've done is turn the whole wall into a whiteboard, because even being Mr. Technical, I have found out that it was a lot easier for me to teach off of a whiteboard. So that's what we did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a 15-minute video, and it's much better when I do the pre-recorded video because there's overlays and I bring in things and let you know this was like the third or fourth time I attempted to present this, so I think we got the best of both worlds here. So all right, I will be hanging around for questions, and also I have one comment that I might be echoing. Well, only if you're, well, I'm not sure. Can anyone else confirm that I'm still echo with my live? Okay, so I only see one microphone. Oh, hold on. How's that? Did that fix it? All right. Okay, the webcam audio got enabled. Okay, say they're echoing, but I don't think. All right, so how are we doing now? Fixed it. Okay, somehow my webcam mic got turned on too. There's always something in this, but thank you for letting me know. So now comes the important part, and there shouldn't be any echo in here. Welcome to this little training session on troubleshooting Pro Stitcher issues. I want to point out that you can go to mkquilts.com, click on the support button, and you will be taken to a support page that has several documents, both online and downloadable, that help you troubleshoot common issues, stitch issues, machine issues, and Pro Stitcher issues. We also have a document that talks about cable management because it is so critical with keeping your cables from interfering with the encoders, which then results into long stitches. But what I'd like everybody to do if they have issues is make sure that they've gone to our website and looked at the step-by-step process. So I'm going to describe the communication paths and cables that are involved in connecting the Pro Stitcher to the tablet and how the communication works. All right, the most common problems that people will see is intermittent motor errors. What does a motor error mean? That means that the tablet here is having trouble talking to the motors down in your Pro Stitcher. Now, people think of the Pro Stitcher as your tablet, but in truth, most of the magic happens down in your carriage where you have what they call the motor tray, okay? So the motor tray itself is a separate unit from your machine. It has its own controller board and power supply. Your machine has its own controller board and power supply. If you want to think about it in computer terms, the tablet's got a CPU sitting on a motherboard. It controls everything, okay? The display and the mouse and everything else are just input and output devices, okay? So what we have here is the tablet, which will plug into the hub, which is usually on the back of the bracket that is attached to your machine holding the tablet. Now, Infinity people have the hub built into the side of their machine, okay? So that's the one difference, well, one of several differences that the Infinity machine has from the Amara class and all previous Avante, Fusion, Forte type machines. So what we're going to talk about here is what causes these errors. Now, you also may just get a general communication error. You might get a buffer underflow error. Now, those are simple to talk about. The buffer underflow is basically this controller board saying, I expected to hear from the tablet, but I never got that message in a timely manner. Now, that can be indications of software problems. You know, there are some issues related to older versions of Pro Stitcher. Make sure you're running at least 537 on your machine or on your tablet here. But basically, some background processes and things can hang up Pro Stitcher, so it basically doesn't respond in time, so you can get communications errors or buffer underflow errors. Let's put it that way. The term communication error is a general term. It means that they're not communicating, okay? So let's talk about the connections and the data flow you have with the machines. So from the tablet, you have a power connector that goes to the top. Now I'm talking Amara class. You may have older Avantes where you'll see the cables come out different ways, but you technically have everything here, okay? I think on the Avantes, the power actually plugs into the bottom instead of the top. Unimportant here. You have a power cable that goes from the tablet to the hub, okay? Now we're going to talk power here because this is an interesting item to think of. If your tablet's not charging, you want to start checking these cables. Out of the bottom of the hub is another power cable that goes into the front of your machine. Or if you have an Avante where the cables go over the top, it's effectively the same thing. But you have power coming in. Now the interesting part is red here is power, okay? It comes in the machine now. On everything but the Infinity, it doesn't get that power from the power supply in the machine. It gets the power from the power supply in your Pro Stitcher. So if you don't plug in your Pro Stitcher, you're not going to be charging your tablet, okay? So that's another thing, is that you can be charging your tablet without turning on your machine, okay? So red is power in this situation. I have AC here. That's where you would plug your big power cords into the wall, or hopefully you're running with a UPS, uninterruptible power supply. So let's go back and start talking about communication here. When the tablet is talking to the Pro Stitcher or the machine, the data is going to come through this USB cable that plugs into the top. Now I have one in my hand here, and this one's actually marked bad because we just had this happen this week. It was very interesting, but you'll notice that the connections on this, one's a standard USB, and the other one is like your printer cable, okay? That goes into the top of the hub. Now this hub here should have 2 USB ports on it. That's where you'd plug in your little memory stick to transfer files to and from the tablet, okay? If you ignored everything else and you normally plugged in a hub, which watch this magic. So if it plugs into a hub, this is basically a USB connection that gives you more USB ports. Okay, this is also a little hub you can get for your computer. Now I'm getting detailed here because there is something that I learned in preparing for this training. Normally when you plug it into a tablet, the power for devices on this hub come from the computer, the laptop, the tablet, that computer, okay? In the case of the machine, this hub is actually getting its power from the machine. Okay, why is that important? Okay, well, we were talking about from here comes into the hub, and then there's this cable that goes down in the front of the machine. That is an important cable because this cable under here is a small USB-C cable with an L connector, and unfortunately, if you, and there's really no reason to, but if you rock your tablet all the way back on the machine, if you grab the top and you push it way back real hard, you can actually damage this connector. And so it's a common situation where that connector on the hub gets damaged when you rock it back hard. And there's a little board in here, a few screws can be swapped out and replaced, but that's an important thing. So where you want to start your troubleshooting in wiggling most likely is down here at the bottom of the hub and check this cable, because that's the one that goes bad very often just from casual use, accidentally damaging that port, okay? So that's a USB connection, and it connects into the board in the front of the machine. So if that cable's bad, you may still have the little blue LED light you can see glowing in the hub. That means you've got power to the board, but the actual USB devices will not receive power if this cable's not here. And the reason I stress this is it's hard to test this cable for sure. If this cable's bad, it'll still not connect. So let's talk about how to test it. You want to test this port on here. Turn the volume up on your tablet. Unplug this connector, okay? If you hear a doo-doo, it lost all these devices, and it saw it before. You plug it in, plug it out, you should hear the beep if it's talking to any of these devices, okay? You can also take your USB key and directly plug it in here and see if you can see the files on the tablet, okay? So when I talk about the volume, there's usually a volume button on the edge of your tablet. Just make sure it's up at 100% so that you can hear the beeps of your computer. So what we ran into with this cable was that somehow this got loose. Somehow this cable plugged into the tablet, I could just wiggle it a little bit and get that noise of it losing communications with the machine. The only way I could be 100% sure that I'd solved the problem was to try swapping the cable with a new cable and then wiggle it again to see if the problem went away. So it's very common that you might have a USB error up here, but if you get a motor error, 90% of the time, as you'll find in our documents, what we're talking about is a problem with the Pro Stitcher cable. This is a single cable. that has a large connector that plugs into your carriage. Do not plug this in and out unless you've unplugged your carriage, because you can get an ugly spark. I don't think it's going to damage anything, but it, don't do it. Okay. Now this end of the connector, on the Infinity, it's only 3 wires. It's, guess what? The Infinity provides power to the tablet. This one has a 4th red wire, you can sort of see here, that provides power. Okay, so you have 4 wires. Now the bad part about this is that is not, let's see if I can get a white background here. There is not a lot of strain relief on that. So every system should have a screw and a plastic clasp on the back of the machine here, and every one of these must be secured to the machine so that this connection doesn't see any rocking of the cable as the machine goes back and forth, or you will wear this cable out. Okay, Pro Stitcher communication cable. Okay, there is one on the Infinity. Every machine has one. Now the older Avantes, the cables went straight from the hub over the top of the machine. There were 2 cables. One went to the Pro Stitcher. The other one went to the Y encoder to jump on the cable to go in and talk to the communications board. So let's talk about that a little bit too. One easy way to check these cables, if you've got a hard failure, like a hard motor failure, and I apologize, I'm looking a little to the left sometimes because the video, I can see the video over there, but I should be looking at you. So if this is the problem, one way to test that is go to Pro Stitcher, the Pro Stitcher tab. On the left side, you got 2 buttons, half stitch and full stitch. If you press one of those buttons and the machine stitches, guess what? You just communicated to the controller board on the machine, which told it to stitch. So you just confirmed that path. Now on the older machines with the external connection, that's a good test to see whether that cable to the Y encoder has an issue. Sometimes the connection on the Y encoder can get loose or have issues, but you're talking to the machine to tell it to go to stitch through the controller board. This path to the controller board also translates the USB jargon into Pro Stitcher jargon communications to talk to the Pro Stitcher. So if this board dies, everything's going to be dead, but it doesn't happen that often, okay? So the key point here is that you should always be paying attention to the communication path here and to your cables. All right, I am thinking if there's anything else that I want to include in this. So obviously this is a little bit deeper dive. It's still troubleshooting, and we're going to talk more about this. This video is going to be posted with additional details to our machine owner technician training group that meets after we do these YouTube broadcasts. The idea is, if you want to be able to swap the boards, do anything that requires you to open the machine, go a little bit beyond just doing your timing, which you can purchase a training course from us and a timing kit and do your own timing. But anytime it talks about cracking the machine or opening up the electronics, we are going to request that you join our machine owner technician training program so that you can cover some of the safety issues, learn what the risks are from crimping cables and things. So I appreciate you tuning in for this. This, I think, is the biggest issue for most people using Pro Stitcher right now, is that they run into these glitches. And last thing I'll say right now is that if you have to reboot your tablet a lot or deal with more than one motor error per king size quilt, it shouldn't happen a lot. Okay, there can be issues and glitches that, stuff happens, but make sure that you open a support ticket with us to talk about cleaning up your software install. Run at least 537. Pro Stitcher Connect 737 is out. You can use that, but we're still recommending 537 as the most stable and supported version. All right, happy quilting. Wow, a lot of information there. I do enjoy making it. It takes a lot more effort. Melissa makes it look easy when she does her training, but you can put any questions in chat, or members can just wait for a few minutes here when we transition over to our internal Google Meet chat session. I do want to let everybody know here that on April 20th, this 2 o'clock call is going to turn into a 4-hour call where we're going to have a Google Meet session open. And for members, we will be going through together opening a machine. Now, the main focus will be doing lubrication and doing timing if you have questions on it, if it's needed. The idea is, instead of booking one separate support call, I'm just going to have a session open, and we'll have some video, we'll have some small talk, and I will even demonstrate the disassembly and assembly of the cage bearings. Now, that's something that usually doesn't need to happen except after 40 or 50 million stitches, but it is a good advanced service feature that only our MOTT people should do, because they also have our support on call. So April 20th is the weekend, so that will be interesting here. I don't see any questions. I apologize for the echo that was happening. We use the OBS app like so many streamers do, and you have all the inputs, and somehow that the second microphone didn't stay muted. So I think we're down to, I've got most of the calls here, most of the things taken care of. I'm going to run the quick 40-second Who MK Quilts is commercial, so I don't have to bore you with that. And during that time, I'm going to be shutting down the YouTube stream and starting up the Google Meet stream. And I see there's a couple people already there. It'll take me a minute to get the camera switched over, and there's about a 15-second, 20-second delay for the stream. So I hope this was helpful. I'd love to see comments. I'd love to see likes. I'd love to get feedback. Support at mkquilts.com is definitely the way to go. This is our information again for those who didn't see it last time. And so I hope this was very helpful. We will try and keep them going on as many Saturdays as possible. After this, I'm heading out to Lakeland to pick up the gear and the wife and the shop manager and start this all over again for next week. So everyone have a good time, and here's a little bit more about MK Quilts. Okay, so this is the pre-recorded commercial for MK Quilts so that I can describe a little bit about what we do. We are a retail shop out of Florida, but we sell our machines nationally. We've got hundreds of them out there. We have a university for training and making sure people use these expensive machines and that they get the proper support. And this MOTT training is just the next step of us making sure that the best support is given to our customers and to others out there. You know, call us. We will help you, and I appreciate you putting up with this little commercial. Our phone number is 727-935-1739. But like I said, sales at mkquilts.com is probably the best way to get a hold of us.